Chapter 2948, Brother-in-Law. Feng Xiaoqi seemed to have been tempered. He looked like a modest, self-disciplined gentleman. Feng Wu wondered if Xiaoqi had taken a blow or something. Just then, Xiaoqi finished circulating the energy around his body. He opened his eyes and spotted Feng Wu. "Sister." Xiaoqi rose to his feet and didn't rush to hug Feng Wu like before, because his brother-in-law. No, the fiend said only childish boys would act that way around their sisters. Feng Wu was perplexed. What happened to her cute, clingy brother? She put down her extended hands in embarrassment. Before she could ask, Xiaoqi grinned. "Sister, do you see anything different about me?" Feng Wu examined him. "You're a level higher. You're a level 8 spiritual lord now." It was as if he was on a rocket ride. Feng Wu said, "I thought you wouldn't be able to make any breakthroughs for the time being because of your rapid progress. What happened?" "Sister, you have no idea. His Royal Highness is amazing. He only gave me a few pointers and I made a breakthrough." Feng Wu thought, His Royal Highness? Isn't he the fiend? Feng Xiaoqi then took out a dagger and showed it off to Feng Wu. "This is Wolf Moon. It's a level 3 divine weapon. It can be upgraded." Xiaoqi's eyes sparkled. Feng Wu's eyes lit up. A level 3 divine weapon. Weapons had different categories. Some could be upgraded, and some couldn't. The first kind was extremely rare, and there were only a handful on the continent. Most weapons couldn't be upgraded. Most cultivators used iron weapons. Sacred weapons were of a higher grade, and above that were divine weapons. The Fallen Star Sword had only been an iron weapon when it was made. It only became a sacred weapon after Feng Wu added inscriptions and formations to it. She then found an opportunity in the tomb to turn the sword into a divine weapon. Most weapons would maintain the state they were made in. The most one could do to increase the weapon's offense and defense powers was to add inscriptions and formations. Upgrading wasn't an option. "Where did you get this?" Feng Wu was pleasantly surprised. Such a weapon was extremely hard to find. Even the elders might not have one. Xiaoqi was over the moon. "His Royal Highness says that with my concealment skills, this dagger is perfect for assassination." Xiaoqi suddenly rushed past Feng Wu and stopped behind her. His speed was incredible. "His Royal Highness?" Feng Wu narrowed her eyes and had a bad feeling. The simple and honest boy told her everything. "The dagger is from His Royal Highness, and so is this move. His Royal Highness is amazing. In the past 2 days..." "Hold on." Feng Wu raised her hand and cut him off. "Haven't you been calling him the fiend all this time? Since when did you start calling him His Royal Highness?" Xiaoqi said shyly, "I was too childish before." Feng Wu said, "If one didn't know better, they would think I went away for 2 years. How did you realize that in 2 days?" Xiaoqi smiled awkwardly. "Well, I think he's a pretty decent brother-in-law." Chapter 2949. Does it hurt? Feng Xiaoqi dashed off after that. He needed to cultivate. According to his brother-in-law, once he had finished comprehending the 12 paintings, there was another roomful of paintings at the Crown Prince's residence. Feng Xiaoqi couldn't wait to see them all. Feng Wu was speechless. Wasn't she supposed to be his beloved sister? Didn't he say he would protect her from the big bad wolf? "Feng Xiaoqi, you're pushing your sister into a wolf's den. Jun Linyuan, what did you do in the past 2 days?" What she didn't know was that because of the 12 paintings, she wouldn't see her brother for a while. He was focused on his cultivation. Inside, a certain fiend was listening to the noise in the courtyard. He smiled in satisfaction. When he heard footsteps approaching, he jumped into bed and buried his head under the blanket. "Will my hair get messy?" He immediately sat up, smoothed down his hair, and grabbed a book from the bedside table. He only turned a page before Feng Wu came in after a knock. She studied Jun Linyuan in amazement. How could he achieve that in 2 days? How did he completely change Xiaoqi's attitude? That was incredible. The Crown Prince pretended he was too absorbed in the book to notice Feng Wu. Realizing she was studying him, He put a hand on his chest and coughed weakly. Feng Wu immediately came over and sat down by his side. No matter what he did, his health was still the top priority. Feng Wu handed him the semi-finished pill. I made this semi-divine enhancement pill. Don't stare at it. It's my first time making it, so I made some errors. It's only semi-finished, but it's better than nothing. It'll help your injury to recover 20% to 30%. Will you take it? Jun Linyuan was staring at her in silence, and Feng Wu thought he disliked the pill. She was upset. Forget it. Ugh. Feng Wu took back the pill and turned to leave, but he grabbed her hand. Before Feng Wu knew it, he yanked her, and she fell into his arms. He was still severely injured and couldn't withstand her weight. Feng Wu blushed and wanted to stand up. However, he was holding her by her shoulder, and she couldn't break free. Surprised, she turned her head and stared at him. How's your chest? Did I hurt you? Feng Wu had examined him, and the injury was very severe. Jun Linyuan's eyes flickered like a starry night. He didn't care about his injury. He just wanted to kiss her. He wanted to tell everybody how amazing his girl was. She was so young, but she was already making semi-divine pills. She was the smartest girl in the world. Are you sure you're all right? Feng Wu untied his robe, and his fair skin was exposed. The handprint was still on his chest, but it was less swollen than before. Feng Wu touched the wound, and Jun Linyuan sucked in his breath. Feng Wu was perplexed. Does it hurt a lot? Chapter 2950, We Have Time. Feng Wu asked, Does it hurt? The Crown Prince said, It's not that. Feng Wu frowned. What is it then? Jun Linyuan couldn't answer that question. He wanted to tell her why, but couldn't summon up his courage. Getting no response from Jun Linyuan, Feng Wu said, Are you going to take this pill? It only has a quarter of the effort of a divine-level enhancement pill. She then added, But don't worry. I've gained some experience. Next time, I'll probably be able to make a proper one. I wish I had some immortal spiritual fruit here. I don't need much. 1 drop of the juice, and this pill would be much more effective. The Crown Prince glanced at her. Feng Wu immediately fell silent. She didn't forget what she had done with the immortal spiritual fruit. Luckily, the Crown Prince didn't finish his sentence. Feng Wu looked at him. Luckily what? The Crown Prince's eyes shone as bright as the stars. The words were on the tip of his tongue, but he didn't say anything in the end. He swallowed the rest of the sentence along with the pill. Seeing this, Feng Wu stood up and guarded Jun Linyuan while he absorbed the pill. She knew she had to find a way to find some immortal spiritual fruit. She had obtained some information on the fruit from the Dongsang spy, but she hadn't had the time to follow the lead once the fighting started. Bao Er couldn't wait much longer. She didn't have much time left. Feng Wu had asked the military intelligence to investigate, but they hadn't gotten back to her yet. It was the middle of the night when Jun Linyuan opened his eyes again. His eyes were as clear as if they had been rinsed. Feng Wu was sitting next to the bed, and she immediately rose to her feet. How do you feel? Let me see your injury. She put a hand on his chest to feel his heartbeat. The heat of his skin seemed to run up her arm. Feng Wu forced herself to calm down. You're a doctor. Control yourself. It took her a while to finish examining Jun Linyuan. She looked up at him in excitement. It worked. Although it doesn't have the full effect, it worked. You've already recovered a quarter of your strength, and the pill helped you with another quarter. Right now, you're halfway to a full recovery. See for yourself. How do you feel? Jun Linyuan's eyes dimmed. Why was she excited about his fast recovery? Did she want to get rid of him? He was upset. Feng Wu had no idea that the Crown Prince's imagination was running wild again, and she asked in bewilderment, What's wrong? Haven't you recovered that much? The Crown Prince sulked. Feng Wu patted him on the shoulder to comfort him. Don't worry about it. There's no need to rush. We have all the time in the world. All the time in the world. Does that mean she doesn't mind having me around? The Crown Prince immediately brightened up, but he covered it up well. He was about to say something when he heard hurried footsteps outside. Chapter 29:51. One moment. The footsteps sounded somewhat familiar. Feng Wu said, "I'll have a look." Jun Linyuan nodded. Feng Wu answered the door herself. Master Gao was outside. Feng Wu remembered the way he was when she last saw him a couple of days ago. He seemed quite cheerful back then, but his expression was rather gloomy and nervous now. Has something happened? Feng Wu had a bad feeling. Master Gao nodded and asked, "Is His Royal Highness here?" Feng Wu said, "Yes." Master Gao represented the Emperor, so Emperor Wu must have sent him here. Feng Wu didn't know what Master Gao said, but Jun Linyuan soon came out in his own clothes. He stopped in front of Feng Wu and looked into her eyes. He had so many things to say, but he only wrapped his arms around her. Feng Wu wanted to push him away. His voice was hoarse. Just for a moment. Why was there sadness in his voice? Feng Wu was perplexed. Before she realized it, Jun Linyuan had released her and marched off. Feng Wu blurted out, "I'll make the semi-divine enhancement pill soon. I'll wait for you." The Crown Prince paused. He clenched his fists in his sleeves and fought back the impulse to look back at her. He then walked away. Feng Wu felt awful. It was as if a big hand was squeezing her heart. What happened? She looked at Master Gao. Master Gao gave her an apologetic look and quickly followed Jun Linyuan. They mounted their horses and rode out of sight. "Where's my brother-in-law?" Xiaoqi had just finished comprehending a painting and wanted to show off to his brother-in-law, only to come out and see the Crown Prince right away. "Is my brother-in-law all right?" He had become used to addressing the Crown Prince that way. Only then did Feng Wu recover from her emotional moment. "Watch your language." Xiaoqi nodded but still asked, "Where is my brother-in-law going?" Feng Wu wished she knew the answer, but Jun Linyuan had left without a word. Men are so unreliable. Feng Wu went back to her refinement room and wanted to finish making that pill, but she felt distracted. The pill didn't work out. In less than 2 hours, the refinement failed. Feng Wu was speechless. All kinds of ideas rushed through her mind. Was there a revolt? It shouldn't be. Emperor Wu was a popular ruler. Had there been an assassination attempt on Emperor Wu? If that was the case, they should have brought her along. Was Emperor Wu dead? Or was the Empress Dowager dead? Feng Wu sat on her bed with her arms around her knees and didn't sleep for the whole night. She couldn't think of anything that would make Jun Linyuan have that reaction, that if she didn't get an answer, she would drive herself crazy. The sky had just begun to turn bright when Feng Wu arrived at Northern Feng Mansion to try and get an answer from Feng Sun. He wasn't there. Chapter 29:52. Border Emergency. Lady Northern Feng seemed to have stayed awake all night too, and there were dark circles under her eyes. She said, "Sun left last night." "Last night too?" Feng Wu asked, "Where did he go?" Lady Northern Feng gave her a long look before rubbing her head and sighing. Let the men do their thing. It was obvious that she had tried to talk Feng Sun out of it but failed. Feng Wu was even more anxious when she heard this. It sounded like the empire was in danger, and men were being sent out to defend the empire with their blood and flesh. "Please tell me. I really want to know." Feng Wu sat down in front of Lady Northern Feng, looking nervous. Seeing that even Feng Wu had lost her calmness, Lady Northern Feng knew the girl was really worried, so she said in resignation, "There is a crisis at the northern border." Feng Wu asked, "Isn't my godfather stationed there?" Lady Northern Feng nodded. "Yes. He's the great general of the empire and is stationed at the northern border next to the Dongsang Kingdom. They're on the move." Feng Wu said, "The Dongsang Kingdom has always been trying to plot against us. Why is there a crisis now?" Lady Northern Feng shook her head. "I don't know the exact situation. I heard that their crown prince made some great achievements and is leading the invasion himself." Lady Northern Feng didn't know much and was telling Feng Wu everything she knew, but Feng Wu was still confused. She had to find someone that could explain it to her. Since Feng Sun wasn't here, Shen Yi probably had left with him, too. She went to Jun Linyuan's residence just in case, but even Feng was gone, let alone Jun Linyuan. Granny Gong told her that they had all left the night before. Feng Wu then visited Bao Er, who had deteriorated further. There wasn't much time left. She had to find the immortal spiritual fruit. If anything happened to Bao Er, Feng Wu would spend the rest of her days in guilt. She took a deep breath and went straight to Emperor Wu. He wasn't in the main hall but was in his study. News on the Dongsang Kingdom was known only to the high-ranking officials of the empire. It was kept from the common people in order to avoid panic. Emperor Wu and his officials had discussed it at length but reached no conclusion. In the end, he had to let the officials talk among themselves while he retreated to another room to clear his head. Your Majesty! Feng Wu was waiting for him there. Emperor Wu was surprised to see her. Kiddo, you're here. He now saw Feng Wu as a daughter-in-law. Seeing Emperor Wu's pale face, Feng Wu asked in concern, Your Majesty, did you not sleep last night? Emperor Wu waved at her. He sat down on the steps and patted the spot next to him. He seemed to love chatting with people he liked while sitting on the steps. As soon as Feng Wu sat down, Emperor Wu asked, You want information on Jun, don't you? Feng Wu didn't know how to answer that question. Emperor Wu wasn't in the mood to tease her. Chapter 2953, Blood Tax. He said solemnly, The situation is serious at the moment, and I'm afraid you'll have to wait for a while before seeing him again. Feng Wu said, I want to know exactly what has happened. Her cultivation level might not be high enough, but maybe her knowledge of medicine and formations could help. Instead of answering her question, Emperor Wu asked, The Dongsang Kingdom is only 1/10 of ours in size. Do you know how they are able to breach our border all the time, and were even able to invade us 14 years ago? Feng Wu said, Is it because they're better at things like medicine, formations, and inscriptions? Emperor Wu asked, Do you know why? Feng Wu shook her head. Emperor Wu said, It's because they have a patron. Feng Wu looked perplexed. Emperor Wu said, There are only a few kingdoms and empires on this continent, but there's another continent far away to the east with an even more powerful kingdom. Feng Wu said, I've never heard that before. Emperor Wu said, That's because you weren't qualified to hear of it. Feng Wu fell silent. Emperor Wu said, That kingdom is very far from us. It can take years to travel there by ship, so we seldom have to deal with them. There's no need to be scared of them, but they've given the Dongsang Kingdom a lot of support. The Dongsang Kingdom obtained most of its technology from that powerful kingdom. Emperor Wu seemed reluctant to mention that kingdom's name. Enough about that country. Let's talk about the Dongsang Kingdom. Feng Wu nodded. Emperor Wu said, Apart from technologies like formations and inscriptions, what else do you think is the Dongsang Kingdom's advantage? Feng Sang recalled the books Jun Linyuan had forced her to read, and her eyes lit up. The blood tax system? Emperor Wu nodded. Yes. What was the blood tax system? It was simple but cruel. Every 5 years, the Dongsang Kingdom government would choose children between 5 to 7 from the families of merchants, craftsmen, and farmers. The smartest child would be chosen from every 50 households. The chosen children would become the king's personal guards and be brought up in a military camp, trained by officers and eunuchs. They weren't allowed to marry during this period. Apart from eating and sleeping, they spent all their time studying and training. The weakest of them would be eliminated regularly, and the survivors would become capable and knowledgeable guards. Because they were all from ordinary families, they weren't connected to any forces and were absolutely loyal to the king. As a result, all the military officers and government officials came from these guards. Feng Wu said, The guards aren't allowed to leave the service before they're 40. They can marry and have children after that, but their children aren't allowed to join the guards. Emperor Wu nodded. That's why the Dongsang Kingdom can prosper for so many years. Without families of their own, all the guards had was full loyalty to the king. Emperor Wu envied the Dongsang king for that. What ruler wouldn't want a team of guards like that? Chapter 2954, Parasite. Feng Wu shook her head. Your Majesty won't do that. Emperor Wu stared at her. Why is that? Feng Wu said, you're a merciful ruler. Emperor Wu said, one day, I'll adopt the blood tax system, and the Junwu Empire will be invincible. Those children were brought up as soldiers and couldn't marry until they were 40. They would devote all their energy to serving their king. Feng Wu chuckled. You're wiser than the Dongseng king, so you won't do the same. Emperor Wu glanced at her. How so? Feng Wu said, the blood tax system has made the Dongseng kingdom powerful, but it's also a time bomb waiting to explode. Emperor Wu glanced at her. Why do you say that? Feng Wu said, because of human nature. All men are selfish. Once they have their own families, they'll want different things, and the relationships will become more complicated. The key lies in the rule which forbids the guard's children from joining the guards. If a former guard has worked so hard to become a chancellor, but his son can't join the guards, that means that the latter won't have a job in the military or government. How can he maintain the prosperity of his family? Therefore, the influential people will try their best to get rid of that rule. Something is bound to happen. Even if it doesn't, we can create some problems for them. Emperor Wu looked at her in amazement. The Crown Prince said exactly the same thing right here when he was 8 years old. You and he are the only two people who have noticed that. You're both brilliant kids. Emperor Wu almost couldn't contain his excitement. Can you imagine how smart your children will be? Feng Wu said, Your Majesty. Emperor Wu knew she felt shy, so he shook his head. I got carried away. He thought, Feng and I have worked so hard to create this great opportunity for you, Jun Linyuan, but you still haven't won her heart. Emperor Wu took a deep breath and went on talking about politics with his future daughter-in-law. The first king of the Dongseng kingdom was a wise man. Since he started the blood tax system, he also created a corresponding succession system. Do you know how it works? The books Feng Wu read didn't cover the succession system, so she shook her head and looked at Emperor Wu in bewilderment. Emperor Wu felt like talking today. Don't get impatient because it's closely related to the incident Junjun went to solve this time. He then saw his future daughter-in-law sitting up and urging him with her eyes. He couldn't believe what he saw. Had his plan worked? Emperor Wu told Feng Wu, the blood tax system isn't cruel in comparison because it at least gives the ordinary people a way to climb up the social ladder. The succession system is a different story. Chapter 2955, Night Owl. The look on Emperor Wu's face became serious. Their succession system requires parricide. Do you know what that is? Feng Wu shook her head, but she had a feeling that it involved something very cruel. Emperor Wu said solemnly, when one of the princes takes the throne, he has the right to kill all his brothers, and he has to do that. It's written in their law. Feng Wu took a deep breath. Emperor Wu said, their kings don't have queens or wives. They only have female slaves. All the princes are born from these slaves and are treated as equal. They're brought up in a strict environment, and the most powerful prince will take the throne. Feng Wu took another deep breath. Emperor Wu asked, do you think that gives them a great chance of producing powerful princes? Feng Wu nodded. Yes. They'll have a high chance of producing geniuses. Emperor Wu said, all the kings of Dongseng were their strongest princes, not ones born from a queen. Feng Wu sighed. That's why the Dongseng kingdom is only 1/10 of our size, but they can constantly invade our border. Emperor Wu nodded. Their people are very united. Feng Wu had to admit that the Dongseng kingdom was frighteningly powerful because they were cruel enough. However, Your Majesty, why did you say it has something to do with His Royal Highness? Feng Wu asked eagerly. Emperor Wu said, just like we have Junjun, the Dongseng kingdom also has a genius. He's been made the crown prince in advance, and his name is Night Owl. Night Owl? As in the bird. Feng Wu couldn't understand why the people here would find that name imposing. However, she still took it seriously since it concerned Jun Linyuan. What about Night Owl? She asked. Emperor Wu didn't reply, and just gave her a stack of files to read. Feng Wu read the information on Night Owl. He was a very powerful enemy. He spent almost all his time on cultivation. He was born to be a powerful fighter. He had mastered 3 elements and became a spiritual king before he was 13. Feng Wu felt inferior because she was 14 now and was still a spiritual king. At 16, he reached the spiritual overlord stage. That was the stage directly above spiritual king. Very few people in the empire were at that stage. Elder Wu and Gongshu Hongzhu, whom Feng Wu had met during the competition, were spiritual overlords. Feng Wu read the next line out loud. At 20, he became a spiritual saint. She had never dealt with that stage before and wasn't familiar with it. Emperor Wu explained, "Old Mr. Zhou, the old master whom Junjun defeated the other day, is a spiritual saint." Feng Wu remembered Emperor Wu had told her before that Jun Linyuan was a few levels below Zhou Chengfeng. Emperor Wu nodded. Junjun is a spiritual saint as well. Chapter 2956, Sky Destroyer vs. Fierce Sunday. He added, most of the elders in the major families are at that stage too. Feng Wu said, His Royal Highness isn't 20 yet, so he's more talented than Night Owl. But he's injured. Emperor Wu rubbed his chin. I don't know how severely he was wounded in the battle against Zhou Chengfeng. Feng Wu was speechless. She knew the answer to that question. It was very severe, said Feng Wu. He's suffering from a severe injury and has recovered only 50% in the past few days. 50%? Emperor Wu almost jumped to his feet. He told me he was mostly recovered. Feng Wu was speechless. She was overwhelmed by guilt and anxiety. He's only halfway through his recovery. I'm sure of it. Feng Wu jumped to her feet. What's so special about Night Owl? Why does Jun Linyuan have to go? Emperor Wu was equally anxious. That's because only Junjun can suppress Night Owl's attack. The battle is led by Night Owl himself. He has been attacking our strongholds as if no one's there to guard them. The principals of Imperial College and the Military Academy are both there, but Dongsang also sent 2 spiritual saints to match the challenge. Junjun's Sky Destroyer is the only thing that can withstand Night Owl's fierce sun, which is why he was sent to Peace Grasslands so urgently. If our army can't stop this wave of attack, Northern Border City will be invaded, and the enemy will arrive at the Imperial capital 3 days after that. Feng Wu was speechless. She really didn't know what to say. Why did this happen right after Jun Linyuan and Zhou Chengfeng's battle? Does the Dongsang Kingdom know about His Royal Highness's injury? Feng Wu got right to the point. Emperor Wu looked into her eyes. Feng Wu said, if they do, how did they get that information? Who else knew Zhou Chengfeng injured His Royal Highness? Emperor Wu said, I'll look into it right away. Feng Wu said, Jun Linyuan's injury is the most important thing. How many days do you think their battle will last? Emperor Wu said, battles between 2 capable cultivators like them can take more than a few days. Feng Wu said, will it last 10 days? Emperor Wu said, it's possible. Feng Wu nodded. I know what to do. I'll prepare right away. She turned to leave. Emperor Wu asked, where are you going? Feng Wu said, the semi-divine enhancement pill. She walked back and extended an open palm. I need the token to the palace's medicine storage room now. I need access to everything. Emperor Wu gave her an imperial seal before he realized what he had done. Feng Wu dashed off, running as fast as the wind. Only then did Emperor Wu say, what did she say? The semi-divine enhancement pill? Master Gao nodded. Emperor Wu asked, is she going to make it herself? Master Gao said, I think that's what Miss Feng meant. Emperor Wu said, has she lost her mind? She'll need another 30 years before she can do that. Chapter 2957, Phoenix Pen. Master Gao wanted to say something but hesitated. Emperor Wu said, I want her to succeed more than anything else. How could Junjun lie to me? If I knew he had only recovered half of his strength, I would never have sent him out there. Master Gao was touched. His Royal Highness might seem defiant and doesn't seem to care much about the Empire, but at this critical moment, he went to the battlefield despite his injury. He's the pride of our empire. Emperor Wu nodded with tears in his eyes. He's giving his life to the Junwo Empire. Feng Wu found Master Chu as soon as she could. She showed him the token and had him prepare all the ingredients she needed while she went to Wandering Temple. Master Ling Hu was the one she needed to see now. Jun Linyuan was only half recovered. If Night Owl could rise above all the other capable princes, he had to be extremely powerful. The fact that he had started this war meant that he was well prepared. He must know he was Jun Linyuan's equal. Jun Linyuan was walking into a death trap. He was risking his life. If one were to get to the bottom of it, one would discover that Feng Wu was the cause of his injury. The war had to be stopped before the entire empire was dragged into it. That was why Feng Wu went to Wandering Temple. Of all the people she knew, Master Ling Hu was the only one who could stop this war. She rode all the way from the royal palace to the temple. She saw boys playing outside their homes and girls eating sweets. There were vendors along the streets. The common people were enjoying their peaceful lives. Feng Wu took a deep breath. She would never let the war destroy this. All the fighting should be confined to peace grassland. No one should shed blood beyond that place. Feng Wu raised her whip and urged the horse to run faster. Wandering Temple. Feng Wu rushed inside as fast as her legs could carry her. She couldn't find Master Ling Hu's room. It was so easy to find before, but she lost her way in the bamboo grove. It took her a while to realize she was in a formation. She was amazed because very few formations could do that. She tried to solve it but failed. Only then did she realize that Master Ling Hu's formation skill was as unmatched as his cultivation achievements. He was so much more powerful than her. Feng Wu fell silent and was a little upset. His meaning was obvious. Master Ling Hu didn't want to get involved. She was right. Before long, Yuan Bao came out with a guilty look when he saw Feng Wu. He said, "Master says he can't leave the imperial capital." Feng Wu had guessed as much. If it could be easily done, Master Ling Hu would have agreed to help her because Jun Linyuan was one of his favorite young cultivators. Yuan Bao raised his hands. "Master asked me to give this to you." It was a long, narrow box. There was nothing special about it. Chapter 2958, Beautiful Master. The box gave off a spiritual light that filled one with expectations. What a treasure! Little Phoenix, who had been cultivating in Feng Wu's mind space, suddenly woke up. The Phoenix pen. Little Phoenix cried out. It's the Phoenix pen. Feng Wu couldn't understand why it was so excited. Little Phoenix said, "Of course I'm excited. They used to be. Well, it's a great pen, so just take it." Feng Wu asked, "Does it have something to do with my beautiful master?" Little Phoenix wouldn't reveal too much and only told Feng Wu, "You just need to know it's a great pen. The pen you normally use to write inscriptions is fine, but it's not good enough for your inscriptions. This Phoenix pen is a totally different story." Little Phoenix was very pleased. It had been cultivating in Feng Wu's space and didn't know much about what was happening in the world outside. After asking Feng Wu a few questions, its eyes lit up. "Isn't that great? You wanted to go to Peace Grassland, but over there, the Junwu Empire army has much worse equipment than the Dongsang Kingdom. What makes the equipment powerful? The inscriptions are written on the weapons, and that's some ancient technology. This Phoenix pen will make your inscriptions much more powerful. You can simply write the inscriptions onto the weapons. Before, you had to carve the words into the weapons, but you don't need to do that anymore. This pen is so much smoother than an ordinary carving knife. The Dongsang Kingdom inscription masters will be astonished." Feng Wu was amazed. However, she still felt sorry that Master Ling Hu couldn't go to Peace Grassland. "I guess we're on our own. I need to hurry and make that semi-divine enhancement pill." The facilities in the royal palace were better than what she had at home, and she was more likely to succeed. Feng Wu cleared her mind once she entered the refinement room. She tried to focus on making the pill, but she was too worried. She told herself to concentrate, but she kept getting distracted, which led to failure. 3 days later, Feng Wu scratched her head in frustration when she saw the pill that was, in fact, a pile of powder. After clearing her mind, she started the process again. Her success rate would be much higher if she were a semi-divine refinement master, but she wasn't there yet. 3 more days passed and she failed again. Feng Wu smacked her head. She wished she had worked harder before. It had been 6 days. Was Jun Linyuan still alive? She realized she couldn't stop worrying about him. The people here believed in God Mu. Maybe things would change if she prayed to her beautiful master. The next second, she entered her own mind space. Lying on the ice bed was her godlike beautiful master. Every time she saw him, it felt like she was desecrating a god. Master, please help me. Let me become a semi-divine refinement master so that I can make a semi-divine pill. I've never asked you for anything. Please help me this time. Feng Wu bowed 3 times and gave the beautiful face a long look. She then left the mind space. What she didn't notice was her beautiful master's hand. His finger twitched a little. Chapter 2959. She can't do it. After that, Feng Wu went back to the refinement room. Maybe her prayer worked, because she felt much calmer this time. She added the precise amount of ingredients into the furnace. She was acutely aware of when the ingredients took effect. Her calculations had never been so fast when she combined the ingredients. Maybe her beautiful master had blessed her, because the refinement lasted until the 4th day. Feng Wu had gotten very little sleep during the past 10 days. She was exhausted, but her eyes were surprisingly bright. They reminded one of the sky outside. She had reached the final moment. All the dregs had been filtered, and the dense liquid was about to condense into a pill. This was the critical moment. Emperor Wu was already outside. Master Chu and Master Gao were by his side. All their eyes were on the door of the refinement room. It's been 10 days. Are you sure she's still working on the pill? Emperor Wu also seemed tired. Needless to say, things weren't going too well with Jun Linyuan. Master Chu was very certain. Your Majesty, Miss Feng Wu is still working on the pill. However, she has failed twice, and this is the 3rd attempt. She hasn't slept much, has she? Master Chu nodded. Emperor Wu said, that won't do. She'll collapse. Maybe she has passed out already. He wanted Master Chu to open the door, but he still had a little hope left. But what if the girl succeeded? With the pill, Jun Linyuan's injury could be healed. After that, Night Owl wouldn't be his match. Master Chu said, Your Majesty, I can sense the heat in the room, so the furnace is still working. The heat is sometimes strong and sometimes weak, which means somebody is controlling the fire. Just then, the heat started to fade. She's probably at the critical stage of condensing the pill. If we force the door open, Miss Feng Wu's efforts will go to waste. She'll collapse. Master Gao said, Your Majesty, why don't we wait for a moment? Emperor Wu couldn't make up his mind. He asked the other 2 men, Do you think Feng Wu can succeed? Master Chu sighed. It's almost impossible. Master Gao said, Maybe there's a little hope. Emperor Wu said, I don't think there's any hope. The other 2 men looked at him. Emperor Wu smiled bitterly. Have you forgotten about how she defeated the military academy? Her level was revealed then, and she's a level 2 spiritual king now. She only recovered her cultivation ability a year ago and had to start as a level 1 spiritual master. It only took her a year to become a spiritual king. Do you realize how many levels she has risen during this time? Spiritual master, spiritual grandmaster, spiritual elder, spiritual lord, and spiritual king. It would take other people decades to achieve that, and she only spent a year on it. That shows how hard she has worked. Chapter 2960. She did it. A person only has limited energy. Emperor Wu sighed. Since she was working so hard on her cultivation, she wouldn't have spent so much energy on other aspects. Being a supreme level refinement master is already very impressive. It's extremely difficult to rise higher. How can she do it? That's just impossible. Both Master Chu and Master Gao fell silent. That was right. Miss Feng Wu was already an amazing cultivator, so they shouldn't expect her to be the same with refinement. They shouldn't ask for too much. They all smiled bitterly. They shouldn't have such unrealistic expectations. Meanwhile, Feng Wu was concentrating on the pill that had almost taken shape. She was almost there. However, something suddenly happened. The hemispheric pill began to collapse. It was supposed to be brown, but the color was turning black. This wasn't right. Something was wrong. Feng Wu remembered what was written in the book her beautiful master left her. A semi-divine enhancement pill should be as smooth and pure white as a boiled egg. Quickly, use your divine phoenix blood. At the critical moment, little Phoenix gave her a loud reminder. Feng Wu couldn't afford to fail and was so shocked that she forgot to react. Divine phoenix blood. Feng Wu took out a dagger and was about to cut her wrist. Little Phoenix hesitated. I didn't want to tell you this, but if I don't, you'll kill me later. I think I should tell you the truth. Otherwise, you'll hate me forever. The blood from your wrist won't work. It has to be your heart blood. The divine phoenix blood only has a single drop of heart blood. It can save your life. If you give it to him, you must be sure you won't regret it. Of course, little Phoenix didn't want Feng Wu to give it away, but it had to be Feng Wu to make the choice. Previously, her master decided for her, and it ended up creating a disaster that no one anticipated. Therefore, little Phoenix didn't dare make the same mistake. Feng Wu looked at the bird and said solemnly, "Thank you." She then cut her chest with the tip of the dagger. A drop of golden blood flew out of her chest and landed on the collapsing pill. Feng Wu was thrilled to see the pill recover as she watched, and it eventually took shape. Feng Wu let out a breath of relief and nearly fainted. She hadn't slept for 10 days and had spent that time staring at the furnace. She needed to concentrate all the time. It was an impossible task, but she did it. Her eyes were bloodshot red but frighteningly bright. Chapter 2961, Semi-Divine Enhancement Pill. Feng Wu could sense the knowledge and experience of a semi-divine refinement master flowing into her head. This time, she had made a semi-divine pill despite being only a supreme-level refinement master. With this precious experience, it wouldn't be very difficult for her to rise to the next level. However, she didn't have time for that because she had more important things to do. She took out a jade box and carefully put the pale golden pill inside. She then opened the door as fast as she could. Emperor Wu had already given up. Master Chu thought Feng Wu had fainted in the room and was about to force the door open. Just then, the door opened from the inside. Emperor Wu was so worried when he saw Feng Wu with her bloodshot eyes and pale complexion. The adorable girl's cheeks were hollow, and her chin had gotten so thin. The first thing he did was to comfort her. "Kiddo, please don't blame yourself. You've done your best." Feng Wu opened the box before he could finish. Wait. The color, the smell, and the appearance. One could see the level of a pill from more than its color and smell. The pill came with its own markings. Emperor Wu saw the markings of a semi-divine enhancement pill. OMG! Emperor Wu's heart skipped a beat. He was ecstatic. He was so excited that he couldn't speak. "It's a semi-divine pill," Feng Wu said plainly. Her eyes were frighteningly bright, and she talked fast. "How's Jun Linyuan doing? Do you have any news?" Emperor Wu nodded, then shook his head. "They're fighting in Peace Grassland, and things aren't looking good." Feng Wu said, "I need to get there right now." Emperor Wu said, "Elder Wu is gathering Imperial College students to lead them to Peace Grassland. If you go with him, it'll take you less than half an hour to get there." He suddenly started talking faster. "Even I can't open that portal whenever I want. You have to follow Elder Wu's schedule. The portal will open in less than 15 minutes. The next second, Feng Wu was out of his sight. She was gone as fast as she came out of the room. Master Chu and Master Gao didn't even have time to talk to her. Master Chu only realized what had happened after Feng Wu left. "Oh my God!" Master Chu shouted. "A semi-divine enhancement pill? For real? Is it really a semi-divine enhancement pill?" Master Chu stared at Master Gao and Emperor Wu, so excited that he started waving his hands around. Emperor Wu and Master Gao looked at each other, and they nodded. Master Chu said, "She really made a semi-divine enhancement pill. I can't believe it. Is she a semi-divine refinement master now? The Junwu Empire has a semi-divine refinement master now." Master Chu was so excited that his eyes turned red. "Only the Dongsang Kingdom has masters of that level before, but we have one of our own now." Chapter 2962, Barely Made It. Even Master Chu was so excited, not to mention Emperor Wu, the ruler of the empire. Not only would it strengthen the empire as a whole, they could also vent their long-lasting frustration. For the past 13 years, the king of the Dongsang Kingdom had laughed at Emperor Wu, saying that the Junwu Empire didn't have any semi-divine refinement masters. "We finally have one of our own. Finally!" Tears welled up in Emperor Wu's eyes, and he couldn't stop laughing loudly. He was so proud of his daughter-in-law. However, he soon stopped laughing because he still didn't know if his son was still alive. Luckily, his daughter-in-law was already on her rescue mission. Feng Wu ran toward the War Academy as fast as she could. The gate of the academy only opened once a month, and Feng Wu already knew that. However, rules were meant to be broken. When she arrived, the teacher at the door was terrified to see her. Feng Wu remembered the last time when she and Zhuo Qingwan went through this portal. They were welcomed by the same teacher, who couldn't stop fawning on Zhuo Qingwan. What happened after that? Word of the competition between the two schools had already spread. Everybody in the War Academy knew Feng Wu had single-handedly defeated their team. Of course, this teacher knew it too. Therefore, he was embarrassed to see her. He didn't know how Feng Wu would laugh at him. He was trying to figure out what to say, when Feng Wu showed him Emperor Wu's imperial seal. "Open the portal now." The teacher had 1,000 things to say, but he kept his silence in the end. Once inside the portal, Feng Wu sat down, closed her eyes, and started her recovery. Time was of the essence, and she couldn't waste a second. The teacher had prepared a little speech to apologize to Feng Wu, but she ignored him. Ding-dot, when the portal opened again, Feng Wu dashed off like a hurricane. The teacher suddenly remembered an expression. "The person you ignore today may ignore you one day." That was what Feng Wu's eyes had seemed to say back then. The teacher felt as if he had just been slapped. By then, Feng Wu had reached the War Academy. She headed directly for the principal's office. Gong Sun Mu wasn't there. Nor were Qin Ziyun and the others. Feng Wu panicked. 15 minutes had almost passed. Had they left already? According to Emperor Wu, even he couldn't activate the portal at will. Feng Wu had never felt so nervous before. Just then, she heard a voice from her armband. It was Qin Ziyun. "Feng Wu, we're going to Peace Grassland, and I don't know if I'll come back alive. If not, these will be my last words to you. I wish you and His Royal Highness all the happiness in the world." Feng Wu was astonished. She had forgotten about her armband. "Qin Ziyun, where are you?" Feng Wu asked excitedly. Qin Ziyun was about to step into the portal, and Feng Wu's voice made him jump. Chapter 2963, You Can't Go. "Feng Wu, I didn't know you were listening to your armband. That was very fast. If you had replied just a little later, I wouldn't have heard it." The girl sounded so excited that Qin Ziyun was secretly elated. "Where are you now? Tell me." Feng Wu said solemnly. "Don't you dare go into that portal before I arrive." She sounded so fierce. Qin Ziyun almost jumped. Just then, Elder Wu glared at him. "Go inside now." The portal had opened. To keep it open consumed a lot of spiritual essence. Qin Ziyun told Feng Wu the location and then pleaded with Elder Wu. "Elder Wu, Feng Wu is here to see us off. Can we wait for her?" Elder Wu's spiritual essence was pouring out, so he shook his head. You'll see each other again. Go inside now. Because of the unusual activity in Peace Grassland, Imperial College was sending more students there. Most of the Class A students were already there, and they were sending the seeded team now. Everybody was there except for Feng Wu. Of course, Qiu Ziyu had already been kicked out. Chen Ziyun said, Elder Wu. Elder Wu's face darkened. If you don't go in now, you don't need to go in at all. Chen Ziyun sighed. It seemed he wouldn't see Feng Wu after all. He hoped he could come back alive. The portal slowly opened. Feng Wu was still 100 meters away. Her eyes went bloodshot red when she saw the closing portal. She quickened her pace because she wasn't going to make it. Just then, Little Phoenix jumped out of her mind and shouted, Now! The bird could be very helpful in critical moments like this. The teleportation delivered Feng Wu right into the portal, which had almost closed and was only wide enough for one person to squeeze through. If she were 0.001 seconds slower, she would either be stopped outside the portal or crushed to pieces by it. Little Phoenix created this one last chance for her. Thump! Feng Wu crashed into Chen Ziyun, who was the last person in line. Ugh! Chen Ziyun was almost knocked down. Luckily, there was a line of people in front of him. Everybody cried out in pain. Even Elder Wu was taken by surprise. He looked at Feng Wu in astonishment. How did you get in? Little Phoenix had already run back inside Feng Wu's mind space, leaving Feng Wu behind to face the consequences. Feng Wu frowned. I'm going to Peace Grassland. Elder Wu asked, How did you get in? He knew that even he couldn't move that fast. He was a spiritual overlord. Feng Wu said, That's my secret. Elder Wu immediately stopped asking questions because he realized Feng Wu was a girl of many secrets. She had secrets back when they were in the secret essence mine, and now. You can't go, Elder Wu said solemnly. Feng Wu couldn't understand why it was so difficult for her to go to Peace Grassland. Chapter 2964, Peace Grassland. She frowned. Why? Elder Wu said, His Royal Highness gave me clear instructions when he left, forbidding you from going there. That was why the entire seeded team was going to Peace Grassland, but Feng Wu hadn't been informed. Before, Feng Wu would have been furious, thinking Jun Linyuan was deliberately holding her back, but after learning what Jun Linyuan had done for her, she could understand why he had left that instruction. Peace Grassland would soon become a death trap. It would be extremely dangerous to go there. That was why he had left that instruction. She understood, but she had to go. Feng Wu showed Elder Wu the seal that Emperor Wu had given her. This is His Majesty's personal seal. He's sending me to Peace Grassland, and no one can stop me. Elder Wu wanted to say something, but Feng Wu said, If I remember correctly, Emperor Wu is still the ruler of this empire. Elder Wu didn't know what to say. Feng Wu was relieved. She didn't expect this seal to be so useful. It had helped her greatly in such a short period of time. Elder Wu rolled his eyes at Feng Wu and wouldn't talk to her. While they were talking, Chen Ziyun and the others didn't dare make a sound. Elder Wu was one of the elders and was known for his ferocity. Feng Wu was about the only student who dared to speak to him in that way. Seeing that Elder Wu had given his tacit consent, Chen Ziyun nudged Feng Wu. Feng Wu looked at him. Chen Ziyun whispered, Is this your first time going to Peace Grassland? Feng Wu said, What do you think? Chen Ziyun said, You can't even find the portal. I think the answer is quite obvious. The portal was made for war, so it could contain up to 100 people. Feng Wu found a corner to get some rest. Chen Ziyun sat down opposite her and smiled at her. He finally saw how tired Feng Wu looked. Why are you so pale? You look like you haven't slept for 10 days. Feng Wu rolled her eyes at Chen Ziyun. That was an accurate guess, but it wasn't like he would be getting a prize for it. Chen Ziyun said, Hey, don't sleep. This is your first time there. Do you know what it's like over there? Feng Wu darted a glance at him. Chen Ziyun said, Do you know where the grassland is located? Do you know where the battlefield is? Do you know how far it is from northern border city? Do you know the levels of the cultivators there? Do. Feng Wu was so tired that she could fall asleep at any moment. She rested her mind while giving him a succinct answer. Tell me what you know. Chen Ziyun felt sorry for Feng Wu. Sleep. Just follow me when we get there, and I'll fill you in then. Feng Wu shook her head. Her top priority was to find Jun Linyuan and get him to take the enhancement pill. She didn't have time for anything else. She told Chen Ziyun, just tell me the most important things. The War Academy would provide the students with relevant information. If a student went to school as scheduled, the teachers would give them lessons on Peace Grassland once they reached Class A. Chapter 2965. Battlefield Structure. The lessons covered battles and how to survive over there. However, Feng Wu had skipped too many grades. No one else had ever made such rapid progress. She was a student of Class A, but she had never attended any classes. Of course she wouldn't know those things. Therefore, Chen Ziyun filled her in on the essentials. The battlefield was only 500 kilometers from northern border city. Because things had been intense recently, both sides had built fortresses 30 kilometers from their borders. The Junwu and Dongsang fortresses were only 60 kilometers apart. The war wasn't what Feng Wu had imagined. There had been no large-scale battle, and the skirmishes were confined to local areas, so only cultivators had been involved. Northern Feng General's army had been stationed here mainly as a deterrent. Chen Ziyun said, most of our cultivators come from Military Academy and Imperial College. Not everybody in the empire was capable enough to cultivate. Only a handful were qualified to do that, and even fewer were considered talented. A very small percentage of cultivators could get into Imperial College or the Military Academy. It was the same situation in the Dongsang Kingdom. Therefore, the war between cultivators involved fewer than 1,000 people. Chen Ziyun said, most Imperial College students come from intermediate schools, whereas the Military Academy mainly recruits from the military service. Here in Peace Grassland, Northern Feng General holds supreme command on our side. Below him are the principals of Imperial College and the Military Academy. The three of them are at the top of the hierarchy, and they're all spiritual saints. They seldom participate in battles. They're only there as a deterrent. If they participated, Peace Grassland wouldn't be big enough to withstand their power. After that are the elders, who are spiritual overlords. Elder Wu is an intermediate spiritual overlord, and one of the other elders is a peak spiritual overlord. I'll tell you more about it when we have time. We spiritual king students are below the elders. We belonged to the spiritual lord group before we rose to the spiritual king stage. Most graduates are spiritual kings. That's right. Most people end up on this battlefield after they graduate. Only peak spiritual lord students from Class A are qualified to train themselves in Peace Grassland. They won't participate in dangerous battles. They're there to train and survive. They'll only join the main force when they become spiritual kings. Just then, the portal opened. Chen Ziyun stepped outside, and Feng Wu opened her eyes. She saw green. Everywhere she turned, she saw an endless green. In front of her was a fortress. The walls were at least 50 m tall, and she seemed tiny in comparison. This is our fortress, and the Dongsang fortress is over there, said Chen Ziyun. Here on the flat grassland, you can easily see things 60 kilometers away. It wasn't completely flat. She could see trees in the north, but they were only a little over 10 m tall. She didn't have time to say anything, because something suddenly happened. Chapter 2966. Covered in Blood. Feng Wu felt very hot, and she looked up at the sky. It was covered by flaming red clouds. Are the clouds on fire? Feng Wu frowned. That shouldn't be the case. Clouds were made of water vapor, so how could they be on fire? She must be so tired that she was hallucinating. However, something still felt off. They soon entered the fortress. The vast fortress was divided into two wings. According to Chen Ziyun, the left wing was where the Military Academy's quarters were, and the right wing was Imperial College's. Feng Wu only realized how large the fortress was when she was inside. It was a 5 kilometers by 5 kilometers square, and covered an area of 25 square kilometers in total. Imperial College's quarters were at least 10 square kilometers in size. It was made up of rows of stone houses that seemed quite durable. Everybody could have their own house. Feng Wu thought that everything she had seen so far seemed to be in order, and she didn't feel the tension of war. Northern Feng General had to be an excellent leader. She went straight to Elder Wu. "I need to see Northern Feng General." She had asked around, but no one had any information on Jun Linyuan. She thought that Northern Feng General had to know something. Elder Wu stared at her. Northern Feng General won't see every person who wants to talk to him. He was the supreme commander of the army and a very busy man. Somebody snorted. Feng Wu frowned and saw that it was Sheng Changtian, her old enemy. Feng Wu ignored him and only said to Elder Wu, "Do you remember that seal?" Elder Wu immediately realized it was Emperor Wu's personal seal. It occurred to Elder Wu that the girl might be Emperor Wu's future daughter-in-law, so Northern Feng General might actually agree to see her. Elder Wu said, "Follow me." Feng Wu asked, "Don't you find it strange?" Elder Wu said, "You've noticed it as well then." Feng Wu nodded. "It's so quiet. Where is everybody?" Elder Wu said, "Has the war started?" "I don't think so." They suddenly heard surprised voices, and they rushed to the other side of the fortress, which was the side that didn't face the portal. The portal was at the back of the fortress. So many people had gathered on a wide plain, and they all looked up at the burning clouds. Elder Wu asked a familiar student what was going on. The student said, "They're fighting over the clouds." "They?" "His Royal Highness and Night Owl of the Dongsang Kingdom." "What?" Feng Wu's stomach lurched. She knew Jun Linyuan and Night Owl would confront each other, but she didn't know the battle would be so fierce. People around them were explaining to Elder Wu and Chen Ziyun, "It's been 10 days since His Royal Highness and Night Owl started fighting." The clouds were white at first, but as the battle continued, more and more clouds were set on fire. Nearly 80% of the clouds are like that already. Little Phoenix stood on Feng Wu's shoulder and looked up at the sky. Feng Wu couldn't see anything, but Little Phoenix knew better because it had the fire element. What it said made Feng Wu's blood curdle. "His Royal Highness is covered in blood." Chapter 2967, Looked Down Upon. His Royal Highness was covered in blood. Feng Wu was worried sick. How was his injury? She had to find a way to give him the enhancement pill. Just then she saw somebody jumping into the air. Who was that? She wanted to go up there too. However, Elder Wu stopped her before she could do anything. "What are you doing?" All eyes were on Feng Wu. Feng Wu frowned. "I'm going up." Up. Most of the people nearby were spiritual kings, and there were also spiritual overlords like Elder Wu. They all frowned when they heard this. A girl in a green dress scolded Feng Wu. "Go up there? Do you want to get His Royal Highness killed?" Feng Wu glared at her. "Didn't someone go up there just now?" The girl stared at her, her tone even less friendly. "That doesn't mean you can go up there. Don't you know the rules?" Feng Wu was dumbfounded. "The rules?" A polite teenager stepped out to calm things down. He said to the green dress girl, "Senior Sister Lan, we've never met her before. I think she's new, so it's understandable that she doesn't know the rules." He then turned to Feng Wu. "May I have your name?" Chen Ziyun immediately said, "Senior Brother Yun." She's Feng Wu, a member of the seeded team. It's her first time here. Senior Brother Yun gave him a knowing look. "That explains everything. Class A students are always new here." Senior Sister Lan rolled her eyes at Feng Wu and turned around to look up at Jun Linyuan in the sky. She was very concerned. Chen Ziyun whispered to Feng Wu, "Senior Sister Lan graduated 2 years ago, and Senior Brother Yun graduated last year. They both came straight to Peace Grassland after graduation." One of the ways for cultivators to climb the social ladder was to come to Peace Grassland after Imperial College. Here, they could accumulate military achievements and earn a higher military rank. Chen Ziyun then asked, "Senior Brother Yun, what's going on? Why is His Royal Highness up there? Why is he fighting Night Owl?" Senior Brother Yun was also watching the battle. He frowned and explained, "The battle started 10 days ago. Night Owl destroyed a small fortress and asked to duel His Royal Highness. If we didn't grant his request, he would destroy a small fortress every day until a full-scale war broke out. Both sides have 3 capable cultivators. If they join the war, all hell will break loose, so no one dares do anything." His Royal Highness arrived that evening, and the duel started right away in the clouds. At first, only one cloud was red, but as the battle continued, half of the sky turned red. How did Night Owl make such rapid progress? He wasn't His Royal Highness's match before. Sheng Changtian shook his head. Senior Brother Yun nodded. Before, His Royal Highness could finish the battle in 1 day, but this battle has lasted 10 days. I heard from my master that His Royal Highness has a severe injury. Feng Wu interjected, "He can't defeat Night Owl because of that injury." Senior Sister Lan found her comment idiotic. "You don't know shit." Chapter 2968. His Royal Highness will win. Feng Wu stared at Senior Sister Lan in bewilderment. So did Chen Ziyun and Sheng Changtian. She didn't know shit. Excuse me? Judging by the relationship between Feng Wu and His Royal Highness, she might know everything. Chen Ziyun was about to say something, when Senior Brother Yun tried to mediate again. "You weren't here, so you don't know," Senior Brother Yun said earnestly. "My master said His Royal Highness is indeed injured, and it is a severe internal injury. We didn't know at first, but the masters saw it when the battle started. According to them, His Royal Highness found old Mr. Zhou prior to the battle. Zhou Chengfeng is 3 levels higher than His Royal Highness, but His Royal Highness burned half of the old master's body to a crisp. That kind of battle is bound to severely injure His Royal Highness." Senior Sister Lan ground her teeth. Why did His Royal Highness challenge Zhou Chengfeng now? Chen Ziyun and Sheng Changtian looked at each other. Could Zhou Qingwan be the reason? Did His Royal Highness take revenge for Feng Wu? That explained everything. That was why Feng Wu knew about the injury already. She knew everything. Senior Sister Lan kept her gaze on the 2 tiny figures in the sky. "His Royal Highness will win. I'm sure of it." Feng Wu asked, "Why did that person go up there?" These people kept digressing. She wanted to know how to go up. "The person you saw is a spiritual overlord from the Dongsang Kingdom," Senior Sister Lan said reluctantly. "They won, so they can send a person up there." "They won? They won what?" Senior Sister Lan's answer was so vague that Feng Wu was still confused, so she looked at Senior Brother Yun. Senior Brother Yun lost all his frustration when he met Feng Wu's beautiful eyes. "That's our agreement." He pointed at an area not far ahead of them. A large group of people had gathered at the border. Both sides can send reinforcements up into the sky. No matter how many people either side sends, we must fight a battle to decide which side gets to send its people. Apparently, the Dongsang Kingdom won that battle, so one of their spiritual overlords flew up. The battle is between spiritual kings, but a spiritual overlord is sent out. That's because spiritual kings can't fly up there. Feng Wu frowned. Why was it so complicated? "What about a spiritual pet?" she asked. She just wanted to give Jun Linyuan the pill. Senior Brother Yun shook his head. "That won't do. The sky above us is controlled by the most powerful cultivators. We have the general and 2 principals, and they have 3 equally powerful cultivators. All 6 pairs of eyes are watching over this area. Even an ant will be spotted, let alone a spiritual pet. They'll be smashed to the ground right away." Little Phoenix cringed because it knew Feng Wu had wanted to send it up there. Feng Wu took a deep breath. So, Little Phoenix wouldn't do the trick. Senior Sister Lan glared at Senior Brother Yun. "Save your spit. She's just an ant." Senior brother Yun seemed to be scared of senior sister Lan. He didn't talk back and only gave Feng Wu an apologetic glance. Chapter 2969. Special Method. Feng Wu ignored senior sister Lan. The battle is fought by spiritual kings, is it? Senior brother Yun said, yes. The contestants have to be junior spiritual kings below 20 years old. That was because only young spiritual kings of that age had the potential to become capable fighters in the future. Therefore, both the Junmu Empire and the Dongsang Kingdom paid a lot of attention to spiritual kings. Senior sister Lan grew impatient. The girl was so pretty and seemed so worried about His Royal Highness. Lan suddenly felt threatened. I told you to shut up. She raised her hand, trying to slap Feng Wu. Holy crap! The few people who knew better were astonished. Had this woman lost her mind? How dare she attack Feng Wu? Chen Ziyun and Sheng Changtian stared at senior sister Lan in disbelief. Although senior sister Lan was an outstanding graduate, Feng Wu was the love of His Royal Highness's life. There were many talented graduates, but His Royal Highness only had one future wife. Just then, they heard a crisp sound and were shocked by what they saw. Somebody was slapped, but it wasn't Feng Wu. She had slapped senior sister Lan instead. Feng Wu hadn't slept for 10 days and was filled with frustration. She couldn't stand the provocation anymore. She didn't hold back her power as a level 2 spiritual king. Thump! Senior sister Lan flew backward. Everybody stared at Feng Wu in amazement. Senior brother Yun was so shocked that he turned to Chen Ziyun in bewilderment. Why was a Class A student so powerful? Chen Ziyun rubbed his nose. During the competition against the military academy this year, Feng Wu defeated all 5 opponents, including Sheng Changtian, all by herself. Sheng Changtian couldn't stand the humiliation. He immediately tried to leave, but the students nearby all heard it, and they all looked at Feng Wu. One could never tell that the girl was so fierce. She's only 14. Chen Ziyun feigned an indifferent tone. She's only been with us for less than 6 months. Senior brother Yun was speechless. Everyone was dumbfounded. No. They wouldn't believe it. Feng Wu had already walked away. If only the winner could go up into the sky, she would defeat them all. Chen Ziyun turned around and saw Feng Wu charging at the border. He immediately ran after her. Xiao Wu, wait for me. Only then did senior sister Lan stumble back to them. Where's that girl? Her face was livid. Everybody saw the mark on her face. Her hair was disheveled, and her clothes were covered in dirt. Somebody said, Feng Wu is heading for the border. It was a girl's voice. If Feng Wu had been here, she would have recognized the speaker. It was Shan Jingfei. Senior sister Lan stormed off toward the border, too. Was there going to be a battle? Let's go. All the people in the fortress headed for the border, too. Over the years, the Junmu Empire and the Dongsang Kingdom had kept their battle to peace grassland. The battle between cultivators was different from that between ordinary soldiers. Chapter 2970. Are we going to lose? They set up many arenas on the border. Usually, the two sides would engage in 5-on-5 battles in these arenas to compare the strength of the two forces. Of course, the spiritual saints wouldn't get involved. The spiritual overlords also felt that they were too important to participate. Therefore, most of the battles took place between spiritual kings, who made up the majority of the cultivators in Peace Grassland. There were 3 large arenas on the border. The one on the left was a junior arena, the one on the right was an intermediate arena, and the one in the middle was an advanced arena. Level 1 to 3 spiritual kings fought on the left. Level 4 to 6 spiritual kings fought on the right. Level 7 to 9 fought in the middle. The current battle was taking place in the junior arena. Feng Wu pushed away the crowd and made it to the front row. The two sides were fighting. 2 out of the 5 Junwu cultivators had lost, and there were 3 more to go. The Dongsang team had only lost once. Feng Wu heard the people around her talking. Oh no, we're not going to lose again, are we? The previous one was from the military academy, and he lost to the Dongsang Kingdom. This round is between Imperial College and the Dongsang Kingdom. If we lose again, they'll send another spiritual overlord up there to help Night Owl. We're losing up there. Oh God, they've come out of the clouds. Feng Wu looked up. It was incredible. Jun Linyuan and Night Owl had been fighting in the clouds before, and no one could see how they were doing. But now they were fighting a few hundred meters above them, and they could see their every move. Gosh, look at His Royal Highness. His hand is bleeding. There's a cut on his cheek. Night Owl doesn't look much better. He's awfully pale. Shit, that Dongsang spiritual overlord tried to sneak up on His Royal Highness. He'll never succeed. But he can distract His Royal Highness. In a battle like this, 1 second can make all the difference. That was true. At the thought of that, many people cursed loudly for losing that battle. Forget about the last round. We're losing this one. Why aren't I a junior spiritual king? Feng Sun was furious. Xian Yi was equally frustrated. They arrived right after Jun Linyuan, but there was nothing they could do. Another Junwu cultivator fell out of the arena. Shit, not again. Are you trying to get His Royal Highness killed? Countless people glared at the contestant that had been kicked off the stage. The junior spiritual king was a former student of Imperial College and was chosen because he was under 20. Chapter 2971. It's her. The teenager was frustrated and scared. If His Royal Highness died because of his failure, he would never be able to atone for his crime. Right now, the military academy only had 2 people left, but the Dongsang Kingdom had 4. Haha. The chubby Dongsang teenager on the stage smirked. People of the Junwo Empire are useless. You lost the last round, and 3 of your people have been defeated so far. Who's next? Come here and try my fists. Many Junwu cultivators wanted to give it a go. The contestants had been determined beforehand, and they wouldn't introduce new members in the middle of a battle. It's senior brother Min, Qin Ziyun told Feng Wu. He graduated 2 years ago and was the strongest graduate of his year. Don't worry. Feng Wu didn't care if he used to be the strongest. She stepped forward and patted senior brother Min on the shoulder. Senior brother Min turned around, displeased. Who was bold enough to disturb him now? The people around them also stared at Feng Wu in astonishment. Who was this pretty girl in the red dress? Of course, they were in the middle of a battle, so they didn't pay much attention to her beauty. His Royal Highness's life was on the line. The war would also affect the entire Junwo Empire. Are you confident you can win? Feng Wu stared at senior brother Min. Who was this girl? Senior brother Min stared at Feng Wu. Usually, senior brother Min would have bellowed at the intruder, but the girl was so pretty and delicate that senior brother Min said patiently, "Excuse me, but it's my turn now." Feng Wu said, "Are you sure you can win?" Hashimi was shouting on the stage. "Bring it on. I want to punch someone in the face. Stop stalling." Having met one another in the arena on a daily basis, all the cultivators were familiar with the language of the other side, especially the curse words. Senior brother Min grew impatient because Feng Wu was still blocking his way. "You're not certain, are you?" Feng Wu asked. Senior brother Min said, "No one can say that for sure, but I'll do my best." Feng Wu cut him off. "Let me do it." Huh. Everybody was dumbfounded. What's with the girl? Where did she come from? Is she from the military academy or Imperial College? Can somebody drag her away? She's pretty, but she doesn't have a brain. Feng Wu didn't care what they said. All she wanted was to win this battle. She had to give the pill to Jun Linyuan. She was about to push senior brother Min away, when she heard a voice behind her. "Let me do it." It was a cold voice, but it was proud and confident. What a familiar voice. Feng Wu turned around and saw her old acquaintance. Zhuo Qingwan. Zhuo Qingwan had been here for a while. Thanks to her social skills, All the people in the fortress knew her. They also knew that she came from the Zhou family and was the sacred lady of Firmament Palace. Moreover, she had true phoenix blood. Zhou Qingwan. I heard she's very capable. She has been taught by both the Zhou family and Firmament Palace. With the true phoenix blood, she has a much better chance than Min. Chapter 2972, Hashimi. Even senior brother Min hesitated. He looked from Zhou Qingwan to Feng Wu and chose the former. In that case, senior brother Min took a step back. Everyone else nodded. Zhou Qingwan was said to be quite capable, so she could increase their chances of winning this battle. Zhou Qingwan deliberately bumped into Feng Wu when walking past her. Of course, Feng Wu wouldn't let her win. She concentrated her spiritual essence on her shoulder when Zhou Qingwan knocked into her. Thump. Zhou Qingwan was bounced off. No. She couldn't fall. Zhou Qingwan stumbled, and it took all her strength to stop herself from falling. However, everybody saw her stumble, and they all fell silent. Zhou Qingwan froze. Her face turned livid. Feng Wu walked up the stage before Zhou Qingwan could do anything. Out of my way. Feng Wu pushed Zhou Qingwan out of the way and walked up the stage to face Hashimi. All the Junwu cultivators became very nervous. Zhou Qingwan accidentally lost her balance when Feng Wu bumped into her, didn't she? Everybody thought that way. Who on earth is this Feng Wu? They all whispered to each other. Most students at the front were from Imperial College, and the Military Academy students were at the back. The Imperial College students studied Feng Wu's armband. Only current students wore that armband. Once they graduated, they would wear a military armband instead. Therefore, they immediately saw that she hadn't graduated yet. How could she possibly win this battle? Chen Ziyun was the top student, but even he couldn't do it. We're through. Everybody thought nervously. The Dongsang Kingdom soon found out what they were talking about, and they were thrilled. A teenage girl? What was the Junwu Empire thinking? Hashimi looked Feng Wu up and down. I almost can't bring myself to hit a pretty girl like you. Why don't you surrender now? Feng Wu felt she had wasted a lot of time, and she had to hurry up. Shall we begin? Feng Wu asked coldly. Hashimi was over 100 kilograms, and his physical strength was his strong point. He grinned viciously. Of course, but only I get to decide when we finish. Hashimi hadn't finished talking when Feng Wu moved. She leaped into the air and charged at Hashimi. She suddenly disappeared from everybody's sight. The next second, she was in front of Hashimi. Hashimi sensed her terrifying energy, but he didn't have time to react. Thump. Feng Wu kicked him in the mouth before Hashimi could utter another word that he flew backward and fell on the ground far away from the arena. Because of the distance, the thump wasn't loud. However, it was very quiet all around. Chapter 2973, A Child. Because it was so quiet, everybody heard the thump. That they all sucked in their breaths. OMG. That was... Really? Am I hallucinating? She's wearing the Imperial College armband, isn't she? That's right. She doesn't have a military rank yet because she hasn't graduated. Does that kick look like she hasn't graduated? Everybody fell silent. Chen Ziyun was pleased. Senior brother Min knew Chen Ziyun, so he asked, who is she? Senior brother Min graduated 2 years ago, but he was still an intermediate spiritual king. He was the top student of his year, which just showed how difficult it was to become a level 2 spiritual king. But now, is she really a current student? Everybody asked Chen Ziyun because they knew he was the current top student. Chen Ziyun smiled. That's right. Xiao Wu only joined the War Academy 6 months ago, and she skipped 4 grades in that time. She also joined the seeded team and led our team in the competition, where she defeated the Military Academy team. What? We won? Aren't you the top student? Why did she lead the team? Chen Ziyun gloated. Why couldn't she lead the team? She's only 14, but she's already a level 2 spiritual king. How about that? She has my utmost admiration. The crowd was speechless. Although they didn't like Qin Ziyun's tone. 14 years old. A level 2 spiritual king. Was she even human? She's only 14. She does seem young, but a level 2 spiritual king. We've graduated for so long and I'm still. Gosh, I want to kill myself. These people had always considered themselves geniuses, but when they compared themselves with Feng Wu, they felt like hanging themselves. Hearing all the discussion, Zhou Qingwan felt humiliated. She was older than Feng Wu. She took a deep breath and told herself to calm down. Feng Wu was going to turn herself into a laughing stock. She was only the 4th contestant. Once she lost, Zhou Qingwan would go up and save the day. That was Zhou Qingwan's wish, but would things turn out that way? Feng Wu ignored all the noise. What they said didn't concern her. She just wanted to win and save Jun Linyuan. She never knew she could care so much about someone who wasn't her beautiful master. Since when did she care about Jun Linyuan as much as she did Qiuling, who had grown up with her? Feng Wu cleared her mind and looked up. The Dongsang Kingdom had sent their 3rd contestant that it was a teenage girl. Dressed in a leather jacket and a leather skirt, the girl had a tiny waist and amazing curves. Her face looked rather young. Her attitude was quite arrogant the moment she walked onto the stage. Chapter 2974. What to do? She stared at Feng Wu and said coldly, "You've defeated Hashimi, so I guess you have some skills, but that's not enough." Feng Wu didn't have time for this. "Let's begin." She charged at the girl. "How careless!" The girl smirked. She raised her staff and started chanting. Ice began to form in the air. The Dongsang cultivators were pleased, while the Junwu Empire cultivators grew anxious. This teenage girl was more powerful than Hashimi. She's a peak level 2 spiritual king. A peak level 2 spiritual king? What should we do? Is Feng Wu a junior or intermediate level 2 spiritual king? This is so frustrating. We have peak level 2 spiritual kings, but the age limit makes it so hard to find any. All the Dongsang weapons have inscriptions that suit the users. That staff has inscriptions too. The inscriptions increase the power of her ice by 20%. 20% on top of being a peak level 2 spiritual king? That's impossible. They all panicked. Even Qin Ziyun grew anxious. Feng Wu had defeated Xingchang Tian, but this girl was a level 2 spiritual king with a 20% increase in her power. What was Feng Wu going to do? Ice was forming rapidly. In less than a second, there was a giant ice ball in front of the girl. Explode! Go! The ice ball exploded when Feng Wu was 10 meters away. Everybody saw the ice blades surround Feng Wu. She was trapped inside the confined space. The Junwu Empire cultivators held their breaths. Those ice blades could destroy Feng Wu's face. Was the genius girl going to be killed? The teenage girl smirked, and so did the other Dongsang cultivators. Feng Wu didn't make any unnecessary moves. Ground control. Reflect. Fallen Star Sword. No one thought Feng Wu could control the flying ice blades. Not only did she do that, she also made them fly back. What? The Dongsang girl froze. By the time she realized what had happened, the ice blades were only inches away. Dissipate. Now. Even so, a few blades still flew past her cheek. Her smooth skin was cut open, and blood trickled down her cheek. That wasn't all. While she was busy handling the ice blades, the fallen star sword reached her tiny neck. The girl straightened her back and stopped moving. She stared at Feng Wu in astonishment. She couldn't form a sentence. How could this be? She knew Feng Wu hadn't graduated yet, but since when could a current student defeat her? She wasn't the only one that was surprised. Meanwhile, Chapter 2975, Fight. Many Junwu Empire cultivators were astonished. The next second, they realized what had happened, and they shouted at the top of their lungs. Good. That's great. Feng Wu is awesome. If Feng Wu moved her fallen star sword 1 inch further, she would cut the girl's throat open. The girl trembled nervously. She could easily lose her life now. Get lost. Feng Wu put down her sword. Are you not going to kill me? The girl was surprised. Feng Wu had no personal issues with the girl, and she knew the girl was very popular in the Dongsang kingdom. Killing her would only cause more problems. Feng Wu only wanted to win this battle and send the pill to Jun Linyuan. Do you want to die? Feng Wu stared at the girl. She didn't know this, but when her face darkened, she reminded other people of the crown prince. The girl immediately jumped off the stage. All eyes were on Feng Wu. The girl was called Sakurin and she was quite popular among the Dongsang teenagers. She quickly disappeared into the crowd. She was looking for someone. One of her senior brothers was Fuhara, a man of little words but an outstanding swordsman. Fuhara was trying to become a level 4 spiritual king. He would be 20 years old in a day. After that, he wouldn't be qualified to fight in the junior arena anymore. Sakurin ran as fast as she could. Fuhara, don't make the breakthrough just yet. Feng Wu remained on the stage and said impatiently, where are the Dongsang cultivators? Hurry up. The Dongsang cultivators were so shocked that they hadn't decided who to send next. Feng Wu frowned. I'm in a rush. Hurry up. In a rush. Everybody looked up at the sky. The battle between Night Owl and Jun Linyuan had reached a critical moment. The spiritual overlord beside Night Owl was ready to ambush Jun Linyuan at any moment. Stalling would only help the Dongsang kingdom. Hence, the Junwu Empire cultivators tried to provoke their enemy. Weren't you so confident before? Where's your next contestant? Are you scared of Feng Wu? You're all cowards. The Dongsang cultivators were furious. I'll do it. A strong teenager stepped out of the crowd. He was so strong that each of his steps shook the ground. His weapon was a rod that had some patterns on it. The Dongsang kingdom was very generous with inscriptions, and this spiritual king also had his own inscribed weapon. I'm Solai, a junior level 3 spiritual king. Solai pointed his rod at Feng Wu. A level 3 spiritual king. Although he was also a junior spiritual king, he was a whole level higher than Feng Wu. The Junwu Empire cultivators fell silent. They grew anxious. He's a level higher, and the inscription can amplify his power by 20%. Will Feng Wu be alright? Feng Wu wasn't worried about herself at all. When she saw the blood on Jun Linyuan's face, her sight seemed to turn red. Bring it on. Feng Wu started the battle without giving her enemy any time to react. Chapter 2976, Surrender. Feng Wu didn't give her opponent any time to react. Frankly speaking, Solai was a capable fighter. He was a level 3 spiritual king, and a junior level 2 spiritual king couldn't possibly withstand his power. Luckily, Feng Wu wasn't an ordinary junior level 2 spiritual king. The battle started, and she exerted as much power as Solai did. Wow, Xiao Wu is an intermediate level 2 spirit king now. Sheng Changtian was shocked. Was this Feng Wu even human? She was too powerful to be won. He had met her 10 days ago when she had just risen to level 2. It had only been 10 days, and she was making progress again. Thump, thump, thump. They exchanged blows in midair. Feng Wu didn't exert her full power during the competition with the military academy, but she needed to send the pill to Jun Linyuan, so she spared no effort in the battle. She immediately used her most lethal stances. Each strike was more powerful than the previous one. Solai was astonished. This shouldn't be happening. He was a whole level higher than her and had exerted his full power, but he still couldn't take her down. Solai's eyes glinted. He had to defeat her for the sake of the Dongsang kingdom's dignity. Therefore, he moved his rod even faster. Several times he almost hit Feng Wu in the head, but she dodged the strike every single time. 10 minutes had passed, and neither of them was winning. OMG! Feng Wu has held on for so long. She's a level lower than him. That shows how much potential she has. Have you forgotten? There are inscriptions on Solai's weapon. He's 20% more powerful than he really is. He's exerting that power. Solai smirked. He stared at Feng Wu. You're good, but I'm better. You've been able to fend me off despite being a level 2 spiritual king. I can see your potential. However, you shouldn't have revealed it here. The Dongsang Kingdom will never let a genius like you grow up. Everybody heard those words. Shit. Cultivators of the Junwu Empire were frustrated. Were they going to kill their genius girl? You should have killed Sakurin. That way, you would have at least taken out one enemy, but you were too merciful. Do you think that'll stop me from killing you? Get ready to die, Solai said gloomily. Feng Sun realized something was wrong, so he shouted, Feng Wu, come off the stage. Now, if she gave up, Solai wouldn't be allowed to kill her. Many people also realized that Solai wanted to kill this young genius. Everybody tried to get Feng Wu back. Feng Wu, just give up. You can always win the next battle. Don't throw your life away. Feng Sun wanted to drag Feng Wu off the stage, but he couldn't do that. The contestants had to leave the stage willingly, and no one was allowed to intervene unless the 3 bosses came here in person. It's too late. Solai grinned again before Feng Wu could say anything. It was an eerie smile. Chapter 2977, Lovely Angel. Feng Wu also smiled, and it looked almost like Solai's. Do you know why you're going to die? Feng Wu suddenly drew out her fallen star sword. Solai had leaped up and was smashing down at Feng Wu's forehead with his inscribed rod. Feng Wu said, the second stance of the fallen star sword. Dancing dragon in the moonlight. Speed made all the difference. Feng Wu was moving as fast as Solai, an intermediate level 3 spiritual king. However, no one saw it coming when Feng Wu suddenly picked up her speed. She was only a little faster than Solai. The difference was only 0.001 seconds, but that was all she needed. It was like a slow-motion picture. Fallen star sword slashed through the air, and Solai was cut in half at his waist. The upper part of his body fell to the left, and the lower to the right. He was in 2 pieces and blood gushed out. The rod that he was so proud of made a loud clank as it dropped onto the ground. Solai's eyes were wide open, as if he didn't understand what had happened. Everybody fell silent. Cultivators on both sides stared at Feng Wu as if she had grown wings. She had been a little faster than Solai just then. She's a senior level 2 spiritual king now, said someone in the crowd. A senior level 2 spiritual king. Wasn't she only a junior one just then? How did she reach the senior level during a battle? It was so unfair. The people of the Dongsang Kingdom couldn't accept it, while people of the Junwu Empire were perplexed. Feng Wu looked into Solai's eyes and answered the question she asked. You're dead because you talk too much? Said Feng Wu. He talked too much. People of the Junwu Empire wanted to laugh, whereas the people of the Dongsang Kingdom wanted to cry. That was outrageous. No, that wasn't important. The important thing was that Feng Wu had won. She really had killed Solai. How can a level 2 spiritual king kill a level 3 spiritual king? The Dongsang cultivators fell silent. Why were there different levels? That was because the difference in strength between levels was huge. There were cases where a cultivator of a lower level defeated someone of a higher level, but the lower one would be severely injured during the battle. However, they looked at Feng Wu. Her face was smooth and clean, and not one hair was out of place. How frustrating. Feng Wu frowned at the Dongsang people. Don't you have one last contestant? What are you waiting for? She was in a hurry to deliver the pill. The Junwu cultivators realized something. They had been so frustrated before Feng Wu came. They had lost the first round and seemed to be losing this round. They were panic-stricken. It wasn't that they were weaker than the other side, but the rule required the contestants to be junior spiritual kings below 20 years old. It was hard to achieve, but that was the rule. It was a battle of potential. They had capable junior spiritual kings, but they were all older than 20. The Dongsang people had said the most humiliating things, and the Junwu cultivators had been so frustrated. Then Fengwu arrived. She was the loveliest angel. Seeing that things had turned around, they started taunting the Dongsang kingdom. Chapter 2978. We're doomed. What's wrong with you? Did you send your weakest cultivators? None of them could put up a fight. That's right. Xiao Wu cut that man in half with one strike. Do you have tougher members? Is that all you've got? There's not much potential there, is there? They enjoyed taunting their opponents because it helped them vent their rage. They needed to show off. The Dongsang cultivators looked at one another in frustration. Several people wanted to go up the stage until they saw the fallen star sword, which was still dripping blood. They rubbed their abdomen when they saw Solai carried off the stage in parts. How scary! Were there more level 3 spiritual kings? Yes, there were, but they didn't dare go up the stage. Fengwu looked up at Jun Linyuan and Night Owl's fierce battle. Each blow could be a lethal one. Why were those people still stalling? Fengwu said impatiently, "Is that all you've got?" The Dongsang kingdom people were furious. Fengwu said, "If you can't find anyone, just give up. Stop wasting my time." The Dongsang kingdom didn't know what to say. Fengwu said, "Stop staring and send someone up here." Hashimi's face was livid. His friend was about to go up the stage, when Sakurin ran toward them, shouting, "Wait!" They all looked at her. Sakurin shouted as she ran, "Senior brother Fuhara is here." Fuhara Tsuba? That peak level 3 spiritual king? Gosh, it really is him. I thought he went into seclusion, said Hashimi. They were of similar cultivation levels and fought in the same circle, so they knew each other well. Everybody knew how capable Fuhara was. Many Junwo Empire cultivators fell silent when they heard the name. No way. Why is he here? I thought he went into seclusion and wasn't going to participate in this battle. Seeing their frustration, Chen Ziyun asked what they were talking about. He had just become a spiritual king and hadn't been qualified to watch the battle until now. Senior brother Min looked like he was going to cry. We're doomed. Chen Ziyun asked, Why? Tell me. Senior brother Min said, Fuhara is the ultimate winner in the junior arena. He has won 100 battles on that stage. Chen Ziyun said, 100. Senior brother Min said, That's not all. Whenever he participates, the other 4 members are never needed. He can defeat all our 5 members on his own. He has done it 100 times. He has defeated almost all of us. In other words, Fuhara is invincible here in the junior arena. He only went into seclusion because he was bored defeating us all the time. He was trying to become an intermediate spiritual king and fight in the intermediate arena. None of us are his match. We're doomed. Chapter 2979, Protest. What? Chen Ziyun turned pale. Was Fuhara really that capable? What about Fengwu? If they win this round, they'll send another one up, and His Royal Highness. A spiritual overlord usually wouldn't affect the Crown Prince, but he was injured now, and Night Owl was also an extremely capable cultivator. That was very bad news. People of the Junwo Empire couldn't imagine what would happen. Senior brother Min protested, That's not fair. Fuhara promised he wouldn't fight in the junior arena anymore. Other students of the Imperial College realized that, too. That was right. Fuhara had indeed said that, and his tone had been full of disdain. They all raised their hands to protest. Fuhara smirked. He walked steadily toward the arena until he was on the stage. He glanced at the cultivators of the Junwo Empire and smirked. Protest? Your protest isn't worth shit. I'll fight in whichever arena I want. Only the weak protest. Strong men speak with their fists. Fuhara waved his fists in the air. Teenagers of the Junwo Empire flushed. Only the weak protest? What irony! They didn't want to protest, but Feng Wu couldn't possibly win. Feng Wu frowned at Fuhara. Are you done talking yet? Fuhara looked at her in bewilderment. Feng Wu explained, the person before you died because he talked too much. Fuhara was surprised at first, but he soon realized what Feng Wu meant. Was the pretty girl telling him that she was going to kill him? Fuhara laughed arrogantly. He looked at Feng Wu. I admit that many people are more talented than I am. At my age, they've already reached the intermediate arena. However, he glared at Feng Wu. Here in the junior arena, I'm the king. Anybody who tries to defeat me will end up in a box. You're so pretty that I almost feel sorry to kill you. I can spare your life for your pretty face, but you... Feng Wu lost her patience before he could finish. I told you already, Feng Wu said coldly. What? Fuhara was perplexed. What had she told him? Feng Wu made her move before Fuhara could figure out the answer. This time, she didn't spare any effort, because she needed to finish the battle as soon as possible. Ground control. Fallen Star Sword. Little Phoenix, use your fire. She exerted all her strength and used all her stances on Fuhara. Fuhara was smirking at first, but the smirk was soon wiped off his face, because... Thump! He was overwhelmed by Feng Wu's power. Half of the stage collapsed, and Fuhara fell to the ground. There was a moment of silence, and everybody looked from Feng Wu to Fuhara, who was buried under a pile of rocks. Had Fuhara lost? Just like that. Just then, the pile of rocks stirred. Chapter 2980, OMG. The pile of rocks exploded, and Fuhara flew out. His clothes were burnt, and his eyebrows and hair were almost gone. He had been so handsome before, but he was in a mess now. Everybody was astonished, but Fuhara was the most astonished one. He had never thought the girl's attack would work. She seemed to be a spiritual king, but could she be deceiving him? There was blood on his cheek. Aren't you a level 2 spiritual king? He stared at Feng Wu. Instead of answering him, Feng Wu drew out her fallen star sword. Sword energy filled the air and charged at Fuhara. Fuhara smirked. He also used a sword. He tightened his grip, and frightening power came out of his body. He pointed the sword at Feng Wu, and the air around him rippled. What kind of power was that? Shit! Senior brother Min turned pale and cried out in surprise. The other people of the Junwu Empire also panicked. What's going on? What's going on? Seeing how nervous they were, Qinziun was so scared that his heart skipped a beat. That's the swordplay known as dragon power. Senior brother Min's lips quivered. The others nodded, all looking extremely nervous. Fuhara used dragon power to defeat all his past opponents. Senior brother Min said bitterly, every one of us has lost to that swordplay. Chen Ziyun looked at the others, and they all nodded at him. Everyone. Chen Ziyun's heart sank. He wasn't alone. Feng Sun and Xian Yi were both shaken. They looked at the battle in the clouds and then at Feng Wu's fight, feeling so nervous that their hearts were jumping out of their mouths. Dragon power gave off a blinding red light, which charged at Feng Wu. Would she be able to evade it? Fuhara was a peak level 3 spiritual king. There was no way that Feng Wu could evade the attack. No way. Feng Wu narrowed her eyes. She was moving as fast as she could. However, she finally experienced the difference in capability between the two cultivation levels. No matter how fast she moved, she still couldn't move faster than Fuhara. Whoosh! Feng Wu was hit in the shoulder, and blood stained the front of her clothes. Xiao Wu! Gosh! Xiao Wu is injured. I knew it. She can't beat Fuhara. Fuhara smirked. You're not so arrogant now, are you? Don't you know how many battles I've won so far? You're very pretty. A genius is meant to die young. Fuhara was never going to let Feng Wu live, but he concentrated his energy on the tip of his sword again and frantically charged at Feng Wu. The blades flashed, and the light was blinding, Gosh! Everybody was too nervous to breathe. Was Feng Wu dead? Fuhara's dragon power had always been invincible in this arena. After the attack ended, Fuhara landed on the ground. The others cried out when they looked at Feng Wu. Shit! Chapter 2981. Feng Sun in tears. OMG! Xiao Wu. Feng Wu was covered in wounds. Her clothes were stained with blood. No one could tell how many times the sword had cut her because her dress was soaked. She looked like she had been showered with blood. The blood even dripped on the ground like raindrops. Feng Wu had the soft armor, but it could only cover her torso and keep her internal organs safe. The rest of her body wasn't protected. Oh God! Feng Sun burst into tears. Xian Yi's eyes were bloodshot red, and he wanted to tear Fuhara into pieces. However, it was a life-or-death battle. No matter how furious they were, there was nothing they could do before Feng Wu came off the stage. It looked so painful. Everybody felt sorry for Feng Wu. She was so pretty and so talented. How could that man hurt her like this? Their eyes burned with hatred, and they wanted to fight the Dongsang kingdom to the death. Only two people were pleased to see this. One was Shan Jingfei, and the other one was Zhu Qingluan. They thought Feng Wu was going to die. In the end, the Dongsang kingdom would defeat Feng Wu. How exciting! Feng Wu touched her face, and her hand came back covered with blood. She knew she was injured. Blood was oozing out from every part of her body. If she could eat that enhancement pill now, her bleeding would stop, and she would recover in no time. Of course, she couldn't do that. Feng Wu stared at Fuhara. Countless people were shouting at her, telling her to give up and come off the stage. Feng Wu couldn't hear them anymore. She only stared at Fuhara. Give up? Were they asking her to watch Jun Linyuan die? Feng Wu took a deep breath. What a pity. When Jun Linyuan and her switched souls, he had accumulated a lot of spiritual essence for her, but it was almost used up. During the battle against Sheng Changtian, she used it to rise to level 2 of the spiritual king stage. She used what was left to raise her capability. A peak level 2 spiritual king? Everybody thought Feng Wu was going to give up, but energy burst out of her, and she rose to the peak of level 2. How was that possible? She was in the middle of a battle, and it wasn't long ago before Feng Wu was a junior level 2 spiritual king. Would she make a breakthrough and reach level 3? Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Feng Wu only had enough spiritual essence to go this far. She stared at Fuhara. Bring it on. A terrifying burst of energy came out of her body. Fuhara stared at Feng Wu. He had thought about letting Feng Wu surrender because he had severely injured her. However, instead of giving up, she was ready for another round. Hadn't she had enough of his dragon power? In that case, she could go to hell. Dragon power. Inscription. Now. The inscriptions on the dragon power sword were much more advanced than on other people's weapons. Instead of 20%, it could amplify his power by 30%. Chapter 2982. Write inscriptions. Fuhara smirked. If she wasn't afraid of death, she could die. What Fuhara didn't know was how perceptive Feng Wu was. Fuhara's first attack was indeed successful. Feng Wu could have avoided it, but she didn't because she wanted to end this battle sooner. She had to send the pill to Jun Linyuan. Therefore, she used her own body to test Fuhara's attack. More precisely, she was examining his stances. Why was Fuhara's dragon power invincible among his peers? The most important reason was the inscriptions on the sword. His stances also contained a formation. Feng Wu discovered the pattern of those stances at the price of being injured. Therefore, when Fuhara used the same stance this time, break! Feng Wu parried the attack despite being a level lower than Fuhara. Boom! There was an explosion, and smoke filled the air. No! Xiao Wu! Don't die! Fuhara, I'm gonna kill you! Countless people shouted and screamed. They all thought Feng Wu was dead. When the smoke dissipated, they saw Feng Wu lying on the ground, covered in blood, but Fuhara didn't look any better. He was also lying on the ground. His sword had flown several meters away. Fuhara stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. "You broke my attack." Fuhara looked like he had seen a ghost. The crowd was dumbfounded. "What?" Feng Wu broke Fuhara's attack. How could this be? No one had been able to withstand dragon power because it was like a whirlpool that could suck people in before backfiring on them with double the energy. That was why no one had been able to counteract it. Feng Wu rose to her feet in difficulty and walked toward Fuhara. After the initial astonishment passed, Fuhara had a murderous look in his eyes. He couldn't stand it that somebody had broken his attack. He reached for his sword but found nothing. What was going on? When he looked at Feng Wu, he saw that she was holding the sword. Feng Wu took a brush out of her pocket. A brush? Everybody looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment. What was that brush for? Did she want to write something? Feng Wu started writing. Everybody could read the words she was writing, but they couldn't understand the whole sentence. Are those inscriptions? Somebody recognized them. Inscriptions? They can't be. Inscription masters always carve their inscriptions one stroke at a time. It takes them days to finish a word. That's right. I remember that too. Feng Wu is just writing. What's she writing on Fuhara's sword? Didn't Fuhara say he's invincible? Maybe Feng Wu is writing that he isn't. Dude, stop joking. Feng Wu isn't Fuhara's match. Not only the crowd but Fuhara was also astonished. Inscriptions? Did she really think she was writing inscriptions? Fuhara could stop Feng Wu, but he didn't. He only crossed his arms and smirked at Feng Wu. He wanted to see what she was writing. He was thinking about how to laugh at her later. Chapter 2983, A Round Head. While Fuhara was getting ready to laugh at Feng Wu had finished writing on the sword. She then glanced at Fuhara. Let's begin. Begin? Begin what? Fuhara looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment. Feng Wu said, Don't be daft. The battle isn't over yet. Fuhara stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. Are you not giving up? Fuhara retrieved his sword and glanced at it. He thought Feng Wu would write something meaningful. Looking closer, he realized they were strange symbols. They looked like inscriptions, but he couldn't recognize any of them. Give up? Feng Wu looked up at the sky, and when she looked at Fuhara again, her face was grim. Let's begin. Feng Wu charged at Fuhara like a small tornado. Fuhara smirked. Feng Wu, you must have a death wish. Die. Dragon power. Die. Fuhara aimed at Feng Wu's forehead with the tip of his sword. He exerted all his power. Dragon power was a ferocious swordplay. The inscriptions just amplified the power. Everything felt like an explosion. Feng Wu also spared no effort. Oh no! Feng Wu can't dodge this one. She should have given up when she had the chance. She's doomed. The people of the Junhua Empire were so worried, but the people of the Dongsang Kingdom were over the moon. When the blades clashed, sparks flew everywhere. There was dense smoke. Where was Feng Wu's head? People of the Dongsang Kingdom looked around, trying to see if Fuhara had cut off Feng Wu's head. They couldn't find anything. When the smoke dissipated, they realized in surprise that everything was still the same. Feng Wu's head was still on her neck, but they couldn't say the same about Fuhara. Fuhara's head rolled off his neck and bounced around on the ground. Ah! Many people screamed. People of the Dongsang Kingdom were astonished. So were the people of the Junhua Empire. They all followed the head with their eyes as it rolled down the stairs until it stopped by their feet. The eyes were still wide open. That mouth had only just told Feng Wu to die. As it turned out, he was the decapitated one. What was wrong with this world? They couldn't believe their eyes. How could this happen? They looked from Fuhara's head to Feng Wu. That girl? Was she even human? Isn't she a level 2 spiritual king? Isn't Fuhara a level 3 spiritual king? Didn't Fuhara severely injure her? Then they didn't know what to say because it was too incredible. Feng Sun and Xian Yi looked at each other and were both relieved. Feng Wu was still that genius girl who could defeat opponents who had higher levels than her. Feng Wu glanced at the sword on the ground. It was the sword that Fuhara had been proud of. She had changed the inscriptions on it. The sword was rendered useless, and dragon power wouldn't harm her in the slightest way. Feng Wu looked up at the sky again. Chapter 2984, Untitled. Feng Wu looked up at the sky. Right now, Jun Linyuan and Night Owl's battle had reached a critical moment. Night Owl struck Jun Linyuan in the stomach, and Jun Linyuan stabbed him in return. Both of them were covered with blood and wobbled around in the sky, but neither stopped fighting. Feng Wu was speechless. Because both of them were drained, the spiritual overlord next to Night Owl became more important in this battle. He stood behind Jun Linyuan, trying to ambush the crown prince. Damn it. Feng Wu gripped the pill and looked at Elder Wu. Everybody from the Junwo Empire was worried for Jun Linyuan, and Elder Wu was no exception. He walked up to Feng Wu, but she spoke first. Elder Wu, do you think you can take the spiritual overlord? Elder Wu hesitated, then shook his head. That man's called Meaty Monk. He's a level higher than me. Of course, Feng Wu wanted to hand Jun Linyuan the pill herself, but she couldn't do that. Her cultivation level was nowhere near the spiritual overlord stage. Doing that would only get Jun Linyuan killed. Feng Wu handed the enhancement pill to Elder Wu and whispered something in his ear. Elder Wu stared at her in disbelief. She had a semi-divine enhancement pill. Feng Wu said, "You don't have to defeat that meaty monk. The most important thing is to let Jun Linyuan take this pill." Once Jun Linyuan recovered, even 10 spiritual overlords put together wouldn't be his match. He had to make a recovery. Elder Wu had never appeared so serious before. Good. He had made up his mind. He would do anything to hand the pill to Jun Linyuan, even if it cost him his life. Tell him I made it, or he probably won't believe you, Feng Wu instructed Elder Wu. At this critical moment, Jun Linyuan needed to focus on the battle, so he chose not to trust anybody. Elder Wu was about to fly into the air, and he stumbled when he heard that. He turned around and gave her a strange look. She made it. The girl really knew how to brag. Feng Wu urged him, "Go. We don't have time to waste." Elder Wu wanted to lecture her, but that had to wait. After the battle, he would teach the girl not to lie. Elder Wu flew into the air like an arrow. The people of the Junwo Empire were relieved. Finally, they won this round. Only then did they have time to discuss what was going on. I can't figure out why His Royal Highness hasn't defeated Night Owl yet. He's so powerful. His Royal Highness is losing. I heard His Royal Highness fought with somebody before this and was injured. Which idiot did that? Be careful. If they could injure His Royal Highness, they have to be very capable, too. What? I heard it was Zhuo Chengfeng, the old master of the Zhuo family. What? Isn't that Zhuo Qingwan's family? Chapter 2985, Anxiety. Zhuo Qingwan's face darkened when she heard the discussion. She had been so satisfied with how things were going until now, and had expected to see Feng Wu dead. However, Feng Wu's achievement slapped her in the face once more. Zhuo Qingwan wanted to sneak off when that incident was brought up again. She had no choice but to defend herself. She said, "His Royal Highness went to challenge my grandfather." "Why did His Royal Highness do that?" somebody asked. Zhuo Qingwan said, "To improve his cultivation ability, I guess." She couldn't even convince herself. Feng Sun smirked. "Why do you think Night Owl suddenly attacked us? Could he have learned of Boss Jun's injury in advance?" Wow. The others hadn't thought about that possibility until now, and what Feng Sun said made some sense. If that were true, it would be a major issue. Zhuo Qingwan flushed and glared at Feng Sun. "That's pure slander." Feng Sun said. His Majesty will find out what really happened. Zhou Qinghuan's stomach lurched. Night Owl launched the attack as soon as Jun Linyuan was injured. Could her grandfather really have leaked the information? She was frustrated. If it really were her grandfather's doing, would the crown prince ever forgive her? Would she still be able to marry him? Look! Someone cried out. Everybody looked up at the sky. In mid-air, Elder Wu tried to approach Jun Linyuan, but Night Owl's attack turned even fiercer, and the crown prince kept falling back. Jun Linyuan spat out a mouthful of blood. Shit! Everybody freaked out. His Royal Highness was injured again, and it was even more severe than before. Night Owl's sword went right through Jun Linyuan's chest. What was Elder Wu doing? Feng Wu felt she was going crazy. She wished she could go up there and deliver the pill herself. Elder Wu finally made his move. He had been fighting Meaty Monk, and he feigned an opening. Meaty Monk punched him in the back. Elder Wu let that happen despite the possibility that he might be severely injured. He used the momentum to dash to Jun Linyuan's side. When they brushed past each other, Elder Wu threw the pill at the crown prince. It's from Feng Wu. Fearing that Jun Linyuan wouldn't believe him, Elder Wu shouted at the top of his lungs. Night Owl had very sharp eyes. At this close range, he immediately recognized the pill. A semi-divine enhancement pill. Night Owl's eyes turned red. That was an extremely rare pill. Even in the Dongsang Kingdom, where medical technology was much more advanced, such a pill was still hard to come by. This particular pill could do wonders in curing injuries. Night Owl panicked. If Jun Linyuan took the pill, his internal injuries would recover. He wouldn't let that happen. Night Owl turned into a ball of fire and hurled himself at Jun Linyuan. He didn't spare any strength. Jun Linyuan narrowed his eyes. He was about to get hold of the pill when the box was knocked away by Night Owl's weapon. Elder Wu's eyes widened. That pill could change the course of this battle. Chapter 2986, Is He Alive? Elder Wu spat out a mouthful of blood. The battle had reached a critical moment, and Feng Wu was so anxious. Night Owl was fighting like there was no tomorrow. Jun Linyuan deliberately slowed down and finally grabbed the pill. I won't let you take it. Night Owl bellowed. He would never let Jun Linyuan have that chance, because Jun Linyuan was so frightening. If he regained his strength, he would destroy the nearby city in his rage. Die! Night Owl shouted like a crazy person. He locked Jun Linyuan in his arms, and streaks of golden light surrounded him. The concentrated energy then exploded. Boom! Your Royal Highness! People from both the Junwu Empire and the Dongsang Kingdom cried out for their princes. No one had thought Night Owl would become so frantic. He no longer cared about his own safety and wanted to perish together with Jun Linyuan. Only the most dauntless person could do such a thing to himself. Everything seemed to happen in slow motion. Feng Wu saw Night Owl wrap his arms around Jun Linyuan. Then there was a big explosion. The impact sent Night Owl and Jun Linyuan flying in opposite directions. What Feng Wu saw made her eyes turn red. Night Owl, you're going to pay for this. Feng Wu glared at Night Owl and wanted to tear him into pieces. However, Jun Linyuan was her top priority. Before anybody realized what had happened, Feng Wu dashed off and caught Jun Linyuan before he fell to the ground. He fell fast, but she caught him in mid-air and spun in the air to counteract the momentum. She only landed when their movements slowed down. The whole process took less than a second. The others still hadn't realized what had happened. Night Owl wasn't as lucky. Thump! The Dongsang Prince made a human-shaped pit in the ground. Your Royal Highness! The Dongsang people rushed toward Night Owl. Feng Wu held Jun Linyuan in her arms. She burst into tears when she saw his condition. If Jun Linyuan weren't in need of urgent treatment, she would have cut Night Owl into little pieces. Jun Linyuan's handsome face was blackened by the smoke. The explosion had opened a big hole in his abdomen. Nearly every inch of his body was burned. Night Owl. Feng Wu glared at the man in the pit. Boss Jun. Boss Jun. Feng Sun and Xian Yi rushed to their side, and several other people stood around Jun Linyuan. Xiao Wu, how's Boss Jun? Is it bad? Even Feng Sun wanted to cry when he saw Jun Linyuan's condition. I'm gonna kill Night Owl. Feng Sun grabbed a sword and rose to his feet. Qin Ziyun stopped him. We can take our revenge whenever we want, but His Royal Highness is he still alive? Chapter 2987, Miss Dongfang. Is His Royal Highness still alive? Everybody fell silent when they heard the question. Was it that serious? Could the Crown Prince have been killed? Gosh! The cultivators of the Junwo Empire were worried sick. What did the Crown Prince mean to the Junwo Empire? Everybody knew he was the greatest genius in the Empire's history. If they wanted to defeat the Dongsang Kingdom, he was their only hope. If he died, the Dongsang Kingdom could burn the Junwo Empire to the ground. The thought only made them more nervous. Where's the doctor? Where's Miss Dongfang? She's a supreme-level medicine refiner. Go get her. Everybody was running around like blind rats. Feng Wu frowned and bellowed, "Shut up, all of you." She couldn't check Jun Linyuan's pulse with everybody running around. Her outburst frightened everybody. They couldn't believe such a young girl could speak in such a commanding tone. Feng Sun knew what an excellent doctor she was and no longer felt so anxious. He and Xian Yi finally controlled the situation. With their help, Feng Wu could finally examine Jun Linyuan. Night Owl really did some damage this time. Having been defeated by Jun Linyuan so many times, Night Owl would rather die than have Jun Linyuan rise again. Luckily, Jun Linyuan swallowed the enhancement pill at the last moment, and it protected his heart. That was why he was still alive. As long as he was alive, the rest was treatable. Feng Wu picked him up and ran back to the fortress with him in her arms. Intimidated by Feng Wu's demeanor, everybody made way for her. Feng Wu ran all the way into the castle. The other people only realized what had happened after she was gone. Is His Royal Highness still alive? He must be. His Royal Highness is so blessed. Was that girl called Feng Wu? She seems to care about His Royal Highness a lot. That's an understatement. Didn't you notice it? She was so protective. Haven't you seen that Miss Dongfang is also? I like Miss Feng Wu. She's so talented. It's too early to say anything. The most important thing now is to save His Royal Highness's life. Everybody hated the Dongsang Kingdom even more. If something happened to the Crown Prince, the war between the Junwo Empire and the Dongsang Kingdom would be bloodier than ever. Feng Wu carried Jun Linyuan all the way into the castle. Elder Wu was also severely injured, but he didn't have time to worry about himself. He led Feng Wu to the Crown Prince's room. Not many people knew Feng Wu yet, but after seeing her amazing battles, many people were so impressed by her. Many people in the castle were perplexed when they saw her. Miss Dongfang arrived in a hurry. She didn't know who Feng Wu was or her relationship with Jun Linyuan. Chapter 2988, Save His Royal Highness. Her eyes popped when she saw Feng Wu carrying the Crown Prince. She glared at Feng Wu and scolded her. Who are you? What are you doing? Put His Royal Highness down. His Royal Highness was a neat freak and didn't like anybody touching him. Feng Wu rolled her eyes at Dongfang, knocked her out of the way, and rushed into the room. Elder Wu lifted the blanket while Feng Wu set Jun Linyuan down. Dongfang realized what had happened, and she was mortified. She was a supreme-level medicine refiner, and everybody in this castle respected her. Even the principals of Imperial College and Military Academy recognized her abilities. The Dongsang Kingdom had Mu Yen, and the Junwo Empire had Dongfang Ziyun. Without her, the people in this castle would be defenseless. That was how important Dongfang Ziyun thought she was. However, this girl gave her a look that made her feel like an idiot. Dongfang Ziyun couldn't stand it. She stormed into the room, just in time to see Feng Wu cutting open the crown prince's robe. She shoved Feng Wu in rage. Caught by surprise, Feng Wu stumbled back and almost cut Jun Linyuan. She was furious. What was wrong with this woman? She glared at Dongfang Ziyun and told Feng Sun, "Throw her out of the room." Feng Sun walked toward Dongfang Ziyun. Dongfang Ziyun couldn't believe her ears. She thought Feng Wu was crazy. "Get out of my way. I'm a supreme-level medicine refiner. His Royal Highness is in grave danger, and I must treat him. You'll make him worse. Can't you hear me? Get out." Everybody in the castle knew she was in love with the crown prince. Dongfang Ziyun tried to drag Feng Wu away. Feng Wu was fuming and threw her scissors at Dongfang Ziyun. Whoosh! The scissors flew over Dongfang Ziyun's head, brushing over her scalp. That was to say, Dongfang Ziyun had a bald spot on her head now. When she felt her bare scalp, Dongfang Ziyun was both furious and frightened. Feng Sun stepped forward and picked her up by the back of her collar. Dongfang Ziyun was furious. "Feng Sun, are you deaf? I'm a supreme-level medicine refiner. Only I can save His Royal Highness. Do you want to get His Royal Highness killed? Kick that stupid girl out." Feng Sun found her statement idiotic. Dongfang was usually a normal person. Why was she so impossible today? Could jealousy drive a person crazy? Feng Sun was too worried about Jun Linyuan to talk to Dongfang. He frowned, and his face darkened. "Behave yourself, or Feng Wu will kill you." He put down the girl, went back inside, and shut the door behind him. Dongfang Ziyun was dumbfounded. She even began to doubt if Feng Sun really was the crown prince's friend. Was he trying to get His Royal Highness killed? "No. I have to save His Royal Highness." Dongfang Ziyun came from the Shadowless sect, one of the 4 major forces. She had lived like a princess growing up and had never been ill-treated before. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.